Hey everybody, welcome to Workforce Gaming. I am Brad, here with Doug.
Hey.
Spider-Man 2 from Insomniac Games, the PS5 exclusive.
Yeah.
Is a game that I was really looking forward to. I absolutely love the first Spider-Man and love pretty much everything Marvel at this point, which is a fairly new thing for me in the last 10 years, but hey, whatever. So we're going to get into Spider-Man 2. This game, I think, is incredible, but also just kind of almost by the numbers, which is this weird, it straddles this weird line, I feel like, where there are parts of this game that I think are some of the best game that I have played in the last 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
And there are other parts where it's just like, that's a video game.
It's really well executed. I think high
flawlessly
level
executed.
Yes, it's flawlessly executed. It does some really, really cool stuff, I think, particularly with the set pieces.
Yes.
But I don't know. It's a weird game to even complain about because it's so well made in so many different ways, and how the story is told is really cool. But I think we've talked about this a few times in different reviews. It never really feels like it swings for the fences, or if it does, it does maybe once or twice in the game, but not really. It's not a game that's really swinging for the fences. It's not even necessarily playing it safe. It's just I don't know. There's nothing stands out to me, I guess.
So I think the set pieces definitely swing for the fences in a couple of spots, but they're, let's just call them what they are. They're Sony first party set pieces, which I think every Sony first party has these big epic ones. Are these ones particularly great? Yes. Are there anything we haven't seen before? No. I actually do want to start with one though. So the game actually opens with this gigantic Sandman fight.
Yeah,
that I think perfectly sets the tone for this game, because it is just this huge, so if you know Sandman, he's this giant huge monster made of sand, he's skyscraper levels tall, and you're fighting him to open this game. This is the opening scene. He broke out somehow. It sets it as okay, there's going to be some huge moments in this. We are talking giant fights, we're talking these huge things, and even Sandman himself, and I think this is the other part of the game that I really got into, has a lot of this tortured character coming through that you're seeing initially right off the bat of I'm a giant sand monster trying to hurt you, but I don't really know why, and something's wrong. And the game really does a great job of presenting the characters in this too. The character connections are really well. So I just think that's a perfect way to open this, because I think it just encapsulates what this game is going for in those first 30 to 45 minutes.
Yeah, it's really cool. I think kind of what you said. It's a game that focuses on set pieces, and I don't know if Spider-Man is necessarily the character you want to use focusing on set pieces. God of War to me is a game you focus on set pieces. In this game, like you said, has really good set pieces. They're really focused on that, but I feel like it kind of lost some stuff along the way. But like you're saying, the character stuff in this game just throughout is just incredible. It's so well done. I do like the opening a lot. I think it's It made me hope for some really cool big city fights. But I think that boss fight's probably the only one you're fighting within the city. Every other boss fight, not every other boss fight, but a lot of boss fights end with you with you chasing them through the city, and then you end up in a very tight arena. That's okay, all right, cool.
There's one that's a very specific New York arena. That's pretty cool. But yes, a lot of it does shrink down after that. But I guess I want to start with the characters, because this game has what I like to call Life is Strange moments, and those are one of the it's weirdly my favorite part of this game.
Yeah.
Where are these these just weird there's a moment where, and all of this will be early on stuff, so I'm not gonna get anything past the first couple hours, but there's one where it's Peter and MJ are just walking around May's house, cleaning up and looking at stuff, and that's a 20-minute scene. It feels very like Life is Strange. Oh, can you go up to the bedroom and grab this? And you're just talking about what's going on in this world. And I think that's something that, again, from my background, Life is Strange is where that portrays to me, but it feels almost like a game in that series. There's a couple with Harry, who is struggling with this illness and comes back healed, is kind of his setup in this game, and Peter and MJ haven't seen him in a long time, and he shows up, so there's all this flashback history between him and Peter and what's been going on, and just them reconnecting, just the character dialogue connections. It's all, again, flawlessly written, very, very well written, incredibly engaging dialogue in this, and it's so good.
It is strange. I always feel like the small moments of this game are actually the best moments, but not necessarily the thing they focused on. So I really like how Miles and Peter interact a lot.
Oh yeah.
Because so Peter, it's really funny. I think throughout the game, it's Peter never quite figured out how to be Spider-Man, and And like both Peter and Miles are realizing that Peter never really figured out how to be Spider-Man. So Miles has this like interesting relationship where he's learning from Peter, but like he sees like his, if he goes this way that Peter's suggesting, he sees Peter future, which is not so great. And that dynamic is so cool. I really love that dynamic.
It's a very flawed mentor thing where it's just like,
Yes.
I see what I want to be you, but the more I see of you, the less I want to be exactly you. I want to be you, but not as messed up.
Yeah, and I thought the Miles stuff was actually like really interesting. I really liked how Miles ping ponged off of Peter, because I think it's kind of interesting, because I know we talked a little bit like this is like a pretty standard black symbiote story, but I think having Miles in the story made it more interesting for me, at least personally, because you get to see more of that, not just MJ, his relationship breaking down with him, or like his relationship, like his work relationships, I think is how the original black symbiote one is more centered around. But it's just interesting him breaking down as a mentor. I thought was like really cool, and I really liked. I felt like Miles like gave like a really nice wrinkle, and like in then being the sort of secondary star, so to speak, of the game.
Yeah,
I really liked how they integrated that. I think that's what made this story to me pop more. Again, it was kind of those character interactions, but also Miles being in the story is a unique thing to the symbiote story. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that really encapsulates the black suit, because I think the black suit, I mean, the story overall is, if you know Spider-Man, like, you know the story. The black suit stuff, though, with Miles, I do think, like, is where you really see that turn, and I think that turn's done really well there, because it's just subtle ways in the way that Peter starts interacting with Miles when they're in the middle of a mission, when you're in the middle of a fight, the way that Peter kind of tries to take control over this, and you see him initially kind of working together. So I do think that does up it a little bit, because otherwise I do feel like this is very kind of a by the numbers Spider-Man. I don't think there's no real huge wrinkles here. If you know about Craven, he does Craven things. If you know about Venom, he does Venom things. If you know about Harry Osborn, you know the direction that this is going. Like, you know the general gist of it, and I think that's again where it kind of comes to just played it safe. We didn't take any big swings in the story. We're not sitting here and going like, well, now blah 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 to avoid spoilers. But
it felt like less of a. I felt like the original Spider-Man PS4 game felt more like a stamp of like, this is Insomniac Spider-Man.
Yes.
And this one didn't feel as much, even though there are things in here that I think are like interesting, how they made new wrinkles on the characters and stuff. It wasn't kind of like what you're saying. Like, the characters it didn't feel like, again, the kind of talking big swings. It didn't feel like it made such a strong statement of it being Insomniac. I think the strong statement it's making is that Miles is here. But I do think it needs like kind of more stronger statements. And there are ways it makes strong statements, but I don't feel like they were maybe as impactful as maybe they could have been. Yeah.
One of the stronger statements in my mind, though, is the movement in this. So the new thing in this is that you have web wings, where you can just like Superman around the city now. So you can swing, and then you just hit, I think it's triangle. If I remember correctly, I beat it. Been a few days since I played it, but anyway, you pop out web wings and then you literally just fly around the city like Superman, and it is very cool. It's a really great way to kind of go from swinging into point launching off of things. Just the movement of this, it's just this constant feeling. Those wind tunnels are just you can find these wind tunnels that just like push you through like crazy to keep that speed up in the web wings. It's just, you move so fast, you move so fluidly. The game has a really cool fast travel system that I did not use until I was at about 92% completion, just trying to get my last 8%, because it was just, it's only like 2,000 meters. I'll just fly there. This is fun. Maybe I'll find something cool on the way. It's very cool how you move through the game.
And the thing I really liked about the web wings specifically is that the thing I was worried about the web wings is that I thought you'd only want to use the web wings like the entire game, so you'd never want to swing again. But it's like really fun. They let's say they don't really hamstring it, so to speak, but like you start going down. But there's a lot of points where I was like getting in between tall buildings. Like, actually, I want to turn off my web wings and just swing, because the swinging is so fun.
Yep.
I really liked it. I did like how they integrated those, because it did feel like just like that really felt like a natural evolution of it. It was like you were saying, it was like really cool, just kind of going like, 2,000 meters away. Like, oh, that's fun. Let's get there. Let's go. let's swing along the way. I really like that system. The one thing not that system particularly, but one of my biggest criticism with the game is that it didn't feel like New York, the city, mattered too much in this game. It felt
Yes.
like kind of like because you're flying so high above the city, you're mostly seeing rooftops for like 90% of the game.
Yeah.
Unless you really go down on the ground, that's when you start seeing. And there's some cool. I think the best missions of the game, but kind of the stuff we're talking about, like the small stuff, is always the best stuff. The best missions are ones where they kind of force you to the ground to like interact with people. But most of the game, you're not doing that. So I think that's kind of like my biggest issue with the game. It's like I wish it felt like that city mattered more than a fun place to swing around in.
Yes.
There's a very, even like the big set pieces, like the big set pieces, didn't feel like it was in New York City. It just didn't feel like they mattered to that setting. I feel like those cool set pieces really could have taken place anywhere. But I think like, and that's I think that's kind of like my big issue with it. Like, yeah, it was like super cool, but it's like, but they lean more like gameplay, big set piece moments. While to me, the more interesting stuff was like the smaller side missions,
So
and that kind of stuff. Yeah.
So I think you're right. I think that those side missions really encapsulate. That's where you got into like the nitty gritty of like, okay, this like feels like New York.
Yeah.
The just so like you have your Spider app that you've had in the original and the Miles Morales game where you just kind of go and help people out. That felt very like I was like, okay, maybe this is New York. One thought I did have as I was playing this because they changed the photo ops. So the photo ops in the 1st game were like, you found the Statue of Liberty, yay!
Yeah.
You found Carnegie Hall. You found whatever like your like tourist New York things.
Yeah.
And in my mind, like I've gone to New York a couple of times because my brother lives in the city, and the first game felt like my first time in New York, where it's like, yeah, okay, here's the Statue of Liberty. That's
sure.
fine. Like,
Yeah.
here's Times Square. Great, never come back here again. And then this game felt more like, no, there's this waffle cart like 4 blocks from my house. Like, you got to go see that and take a picture. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and there's this there's this cool guy in the park who like does this. Like, you got to go check out. It almost felt like that. Like, okay, like we did the like tourist level New York in the first one. Let's do like the street level one with those photo ops and especially some of those smaller side missions, which I thought was kind of a cool little twist on it, especially with the Miles Morales game being much more focused on like him in his community.
Yes.
I felt like this is kind of a good happy medium between the two.
Yeah, yes. And I always felt like those smaller moments. It's really funny, like when you beat the game and start cleaning up the side missions, I was like, oh, this is kind of like the neat sort of like not the movie Spider-Man, like this, like the main story is like movie Spider-Man in which there has to be big things happening all the time. And like when I was cleaning up the side missions, like actually this sort of like smaller interpersonal, not all of the side missions. I'm not like, there's very specific side missions I'm talking about. They're like really cool.
Yes.
But I think like that smaller interpersonal friendly neighborhood Spider-Man stuff, like actually that's like, that would be really cool. But I don't think you can make a game about that. I think you need to make a multi-bazillion-dollar game where there's 10 set pieces of 5 bosses which and it was all cool, but I'd rather maybe see that in a God of War game and like maybe just give like I don't know, maybe just not make it the end of the world every time but I don't know, do you like that stuff? You're more a Spider-Man guy. This is the most I can ever be interested in Spider-Man because the symbiote story is the only Spider-Man story I like. So like this is like I'll never find a Spider-Man game more interesting than this one. But even so, it felt like, okay, all these big moments happen. It's like, well, this is the extent of my Spider-Man knowledge at this point. So, but I don't know if like as a Spider-Man fan, like, did you like that it focused more on the big set pieces? Is that Spider-Man to you, or is Spider-Man to you neighborhood Spider-Man? I don't know.
I think it works both ways, and I think he's always kind of this weird character of, is he fighting like Rhino, who's just like, small time guy, or is he fighting like world ending, you know what I mean? Like I think it tailors to the villain a little bit more. I do think I prefer kind of the little small stuff with Spider-Man because again I think some of those set pieces, it's like we went past Avengers Tower, like this feels like an Avengers deal. Like, why aren't the Avengers jumping in? Avengers Tower's right there. Like, come on, jump on down, Tony Stark. Come on, Hulk. Like, help me. And it's like, this is not the one like little kid from New York, like, well, this mid-20s guy from New York, like single-handedly taking on this stuff when I'm literally swinging past Avengers Tower to go to.
It was this of all 3 Spider-Man games, it was the strangest that it only involves Spider-Man characters. I don't know if that's a spoiler to mention that it only involves Spider-Man characters, but like it weirdly only involves Spider-Man characters, like in ways that don't make sense, especially how they've kind of teased out certain stuff in all 3 games. But yeah, I just thought, like, because I think like Miles, like you said, like that was a smaller story. It makes kind of sense. a little bits and pieces of Spider-Man 1, but that was still like a very intimate story. But this one, like kind of where it goes, especially with like the opening of Sandman, like he's destroying like half of New York City. It's like, I just feel like there's some other people who might be involved in this fight, and this it's just Spider-Man. I was like, okay, I guess Insomniac Spider-Man world is there are only characters owned by Sony Corporation or whatever. It felt
whatever
it felt
the
more,
licensing deal is. Yeah,
it felt more licensing deal in that in scope of characters, I guess. Yeah.
Just to wrap up, the only other thing I can think of that we didn't really hit here, combat is, if you have played a superhero game in the last 10 years, the combat is the combat. Again, I don't really want to dig into it. It is, again, as we stated, very well executed, but it is that superhero punch, 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 counter, gadget, punch, 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 counter, gadget that you've kind of been used to since Arkham Asylum.
You have so many I found the combat a little overwhelming because they gave you so many options.
I felt like I was doing it wrong.
Yes, and I was just like, well, it's interesting. It's like, oh, I realized this gadget combos off of this gadget. Oh, but I forgot that I have like 10 other move sets to do. You have so many, like just basic like skill stuff. I think you have 8 different skills all active at the same time, and then plus all your different moves and shooting webs and doing all this other stuff. It's just like, it's too much.
Well, and you can sub in different abilities too, so it's like what combos of abilities work well. It was a lot more than I wanted, so I just kind of it always kind of felt like I was like, I can get like a 40 straight combo going pretty good. That seems good.
You know what's funny though, the stealth stuff I thought was awesome. I love the stealth stuff in this game. I thought it was like, this game apes a lot from Arkham, and I felt like actually this was more fun than the Arkham stuff I was doing, because it has the speed of Spider-Man, but you get a lot of cool stealth options. But it was funny, like every time, especially with Kraven's goons, I just like, as soon as they started pouring in, I was like, this game just stops being great. It just becomes like a good game. But it's so hard to even tell them like what to fix. It's just like, it's so clearly this type of combat. Like, I don't know how else you do Spider-Man combat.
It fits, it works. And again, and that's where I'm kind of at with this, where it's like, there is nothing I would change about this to make this a better Spider-Man game in my mind. Like this is the Spider-Man game. Like this game is phenomenal, but I'm still just kind of left with that. Yeah, that's a damn good game, but it just, there's something missing and I can't put my finger on it. Yeah. Again, I don't know if it's the playing it safe or whatever it is, but it just kind of has this like, ooh, that game was incredible, but was it?
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like, it feels so bad because it is awesome. Like, go play that game. It's great, and
it's incredible. Yeah,
maybe it's the thing that anybody would like that game, and that's kind of the problem. But it's Spider-Man, but everybody loves Spider-Man, so maybe that's because you need to make a game like that. So
doesn't have that weird grime on it that some of the other games are like, ooh, that's my favorite game. Has a little bit of dirt on it where you're like, oh, but people will not like that, but I love that.
Exactly. And it's just, it doesn't have any of that stuff. Although the setup for Spider-Man 3 and whatever stuff, the future stuff always seems kind of fun. So we'll see. Maybe next game.
Yep. But we are Workforce Gaming. We try and put out new videos every Monday. Leave a comment below. Subscribe to our channel. See you later.
Bye.